Well, glad we're somehow doing another one of these. Around 3 years ago, I did a review of Playmates Godzilla from the GxK line, and it did alright. And it said to be concluded at the end. Boy, did that age well. So I thought, since I completed the first wave of the 6-inch figures, I thought why not review them? And let me tell you, I got these figures when they were starting to show before the movie came out, and they were not cheap. So now I'm just gonna shut up and just start the review before you click off and watch Shinrob's ear or something. First up in this line of lizards and gorillas and noodles, we have Godzilla with heat ray. Again. It's not bad, trust me. Now this may look like it's exactly the same as the GxK figure, but I can assure you that it's different in some areas. Here they are next to each other, and as you can all see, they're next to each other. Sculpting on the legs, tails, arms, and the painting on the spines is different. And if I'm being completely honest, I like the GxK figure more. Sure, both feet are positioned in a somewhat walking stance, but I like how the GxK figure's legs are more bent, whereas the GxK figure has only one bent leg and the other's just straight out. And not to mention, I like how the tail on the GxK figure is more curved, whereas the GxK figure is only curved at the end. And I like how on the GxK figure spines, they blend in more with the painting on the tail, unlike the GxK figure. I also like how the spines fade to black at the tips. As for the rest of the painting, the inside of his mouth looks fine, although if you can barely see, but there's a little bit of paint rubbing off, in which it'll be the cause because of the accessory that I will get to later. But the eyes look kind of wonky, but if you look at it from the side, it looks fine. Painting on the nails could do some work, but the painting on the toenails looks fine until you get to the bottom of them, which are not painted, and that just... Articulation is pretty much the same as the GxK figure, with a hinge joint at the mouth, rotation at the arms, same with the legs, and a nice little ball joint at the tail. But unlike the GxK figure, somebody will be happy to see this. So painting and sculpting, pretty good. Now time for the accessories. Here's the battle damage, which is the only figure in the GxK line that has battle damage. And I know people will be like, oh, but Energized Goji. Look up freaking reviews of the figure, and you'll know what I mean. But I'm not talking about it here. We'll save that in a future review. But yeah, it's just the same as the GxK figure. Just in the same placement as well. And then once you put it in, where to go? Now, for the heat rate piece. And if I'm gonna be completely honest, I prefer the GxK's mold a lot better. But I will say I prefer this in terms of how solid it is when it's inserted in the mouth. So just like the GxK figure, a little slot on top of his mouth. Just plug it in, and it sounds like it snaps it. And just to show you, I'm sure it kind of just does that, but at least it stays in. Not like with the GxK figure, we're just... So since the Mechagodzilla review barely had any size comparisons, or just BS ones, I'm gonna do you guys a favor. How's this for comparison? Anyways, here he is next to the Jada Toys RC Evolved Goji, Haya Toys Ed 209, and for something completely different, a Blu-ray of Turning Red. So overall, this is a pretty neat, nice figure, even though it's the same thing that we got 3 years ago. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. So, if you want, you can get this to complete the whole set of the GxK figures. And I do recommend it if you do have the money, if you can even find it in stores for a decent price, unlike me. So anyways, stay tuned for the next review for the GxK figures, 'cause something fearsome has evolved.